Hey everybody, welcome to part 25 of building the R2-D2 from Fanhome. Now in this video we're going to be covering stages 95, 96, 97, and 98. So there's a lot of metal parts in this particular parts pack, and I think we're going to be finishing up pretty much everything there is to do with R2's head. So these are the metal supports, the final supports that go in there. This is the motor that powers his head, which is very cool. This is the camera that goes on the front of his head, and there's some labels in here for wires that we're going to be messing around with. And then there's some hardware here and some brackets. And we also get another one of these metal rods. So this should be pretty cool. There's going to be a lot to do in this one. Here's the magazine for stage 95. So, creature design. Just going to skim through here because we got a lot to do in this video. And some clips from the movies, it looks like, some animated series stuff, some real science. So, alright. Oh, I love those things. Those are cool. Alright, so the dome drive components, this is where we're going to start building that, that middle section of R2's head that allows it to turn from side to side. So it doesn't look like there's too much to do in this particular stage, but we got a lot to do in the other ones. Here are the parts that we get for stage 95. So this is all going to make up the drive shaft for R2's head. Nice thick metal parts here. This couple of bearings. I think one of those is going to go in these two pieces. This is the only plastic part. Not sure what that is. And then we also got this and this little piece here that's probably going to hold in the bearing somewhere. Alright, so let's get started on that. Alright, so we're going to start with this piece here. And we're going to put in the smaller bearing, the small one, goes inside there. So let's go and put this in like that. Fits very nicely. Oh, actually it's not in all the way. Let's make sure it's in. Oh, there we go. Now it's flat. Alright, and then this piece is going to go on top to cover it. Make sure that's in all the way. This goes on top. And then we're going to use these 2x4mm screws. They're very tiny. There's no screws that come with this parts pack, so you're going to have to dig into your stash and find the screws that you had left over from the last time. So trying to make sure I can get this in here, and then hopefully you can see it because it's hard to get the light in there. Just like that. Alright, and then there's one more that goes on the other side right over there. Alright, so that's all in place. So now we're going to work on these pieces. So we're going to take the larger bearing, we're going to put it in this cool little pocket that they got right here. We're going to take the other half of this and we'll put these together, and it'll get sandwiched in between that. And you'll notice that there's a space for a nut and just the regular hole. So now we're going to go and put a nut in here. Now once again, this hardware comes from the last parts pack. So that's going to fit right in there like that. We're going to hold it in place. Then we're going to take this black piece here, and then these little things here, they hang down and you match up the holes just like that. Okay, make sure you got it on the side that doesn't have the nut on it. And then we're going to use, let's see, what size screws are these? 2.5 by 10mm flanged screws. It's got the flange on it. So let's see if we can get this lined up properly here. Hold that nut in the back. Let's just screw this in. Okay, just keep on going here. Alright, I guess it sticks out a little bit. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing for that side right there. Alright, so those are now in place, and that's all there is to do in stage 95. Here's the magazine for issue 97. Let's see, shooting starts on Revenge of the Sith. Ah, so these are the back to the prequels here. So, more R2-D2 stuff there. Oh, that's where they got BB-8, Raspberry Pi, and Arduino. Alright, so the dome drive motor, there's not much to do in this one either. We're just going to pretty much attach the wire to the motor right there. That's a pretty nice motor, similar to the ones that we saw in his legs, and then there's a little cover that goes on there. And I think we attached the motor to the previous thing that we built. So, yeah, that'll be good. So at least we can get that going. Here are the parts that we get for stage 96. So we got this nice heavy-duty motor right here. It looks similar to the one that was in his legs. Got the cover for the motor and this cable right here. So we're just going to take this cover and match this opening with this connector right here and just kind of snap this over this. See if I can get this to clip on. Not the easiest thing. Let's see, do I got it here? Okay, there we go. Boy. Oh, actually, I guess that's where it clips on. It's just on the bottom right there. Okay. Got a little ventilation right there. Alright, so now we're just going to connect this wire. You got a small end here and a large end, so you're just going to plug in the large end. Once again, these pins favor one side. Looks like they're favoring the upper edge. So you got to match up the holes on here to match up that as well. So it's going to go like this. And then you just got to put them in there. So you make sure you do this, put them in there the right way, otherwise you don't want to be bending up those pins. Okay, and then we'll just push this in place like this. Alright, looks like we got it. Okay, good to go. Alright, so next we're going to attach this motor to this frame right here. So you want to have the part that has the lettering facing you. You're going to put this in here like this. So this is going to fit in here. This round ring is going to fit snugly inside this ring right here. And you're going to match up these holes to the holes on the motor, the screw holes. So you're just going to kind of fit this in. That fit in pretty good. Alright, now we're going to use the 3 by 12 millimeter screws, these long ones here, and then see how there's a split washer on there? Now, the screws and the split washer are in 2 different packages, which is kind of frustrating. I don't know why they wouldn't put them together since they go with each other, but you're going to have to put the you're going to have to look around for the right screw and the right split washer. So it's kind of goofy, once again, the way they do this stuff. Let me see if I can get this in here now. Let's try to screw this in. See if I can line this up. Oh wow, that just goes kind of right in there, doesn't it? Okay. Alright, let's get that screw in there. And then we're going to do 3 more, so make sure you put the split washer on each one of those screws. Alright, so those are now in place. So now we're going to take this piece that we worked on earlier and attach that to this. So we're going to have this facing this way. Now there's these tiny little posts sticking up right here. They match with the holes on here. See the little holes? And you're going to make sure this curved part faces up this way. So this just fits right on here and it matches up the screw holes perfectly. Alright, and then we're going to take 2.6, let's see, is it a 2.5 by 6 millimeter screw, and it also has another one of those split washers. Those are the smaller ones. So we're going to screw this in place here. Let's see, what's the best way to approach this? I guess we can just go this way. Just like that. Screw this in. Alright, and then we do the same thing for the next 4 holes on each corner, so let me get that done. Okay, so that is now all in place, all the screws. And then we have this last piece right here. This is like the drive shaft. That's going to go in through here, and that square hole right there matches up with the square lug down here. So let's just put that through and just match it in there. I don't know if it matters which way it goes. I don't think it does. That's going to turn that whole thing. So that's what's going to turn R2's head. Alright, well that takes care of stage 96. Here's the magazine for issue 97. Moments in the making. Oh, look at that. Once again, there's going to be a lot to do in this because it's only got 2 pages of the filler that they always stick in these magazines. So this is the wiring and the camera that we're going to do on his head. There's going to be all these labels that we got to put on these wires. It's going to be a real hassle, but they are labeled. And that's, well, I mean, it's good to have those because that way you know which wires are which. And you can see all of this. Oh my gosh, there's going to be a lot to do on this. We're going to put wires, labels on some of the loose wires, the battery pack. Wow. I think we're going to insert the battery pack into R2 as well. I don't think we're going to put the batteries in yet. I think that's something that we do on the last stage. Oh wow, look at all these. We're going to have to plug in all of these sockets. This is going to be really interesting to try to film all that. I'll try to do the best I can so you can see where those wires go, but it's going to get really packed inside there. It's going to be a huge spaghetti farm of wiring. This is going to be insane. Wow, there's a lot to do in this. All right, well, that's probably going to take a good part of the day just to film that. Here are the parts that we get for stage 97. So we have a ton of these little labels that we're going to be putting on. So these things, you're going to snap these off, and then they each have their own lettering. And let me see if I can focus in on that. See how they all have their own lettering on there? So each one of these is going to go on a different wire that is inside R2-D2. And there's a bunch of these. I mean, there's just a ton of them. Sprue after sprue. Well, it looks like 4 of them. So we're going to be putting these on. We have a package of some zip ties. This is cool. This is the camera that goes in R2-D2's head. We finally got this piece. It's kind of cool. And then a couple of screws here. And then we're going to be replacing that lens that was on that front piece of R2's head that we did very early on in this build. I think it was like stage 1 or whatever. And so this one has a smokier lens, as you can see. I think they decided to replace this because the original lens is so clear you can see this camera in behind there really easily. So this makes it so that it's not so visible, and yet the camera can still see through that. So we'll be replacing that. Alright, so I kind of struggled with how I was going to film this part of the video because, quite frankly, all these labels, there's so many of these that have to go on all these wires, all these different clips that you can see that are hanging off of here. They all get their own label that goes on here. And if I show you all of those, it's going to make for a really long video, and I don't think it's really going to be all that exciting to watch, but I just want to show you how these work. So you have the clip here, you're going to snip them off of these, and then you're going to fold these. Let me see if I can focus on that. And you're just going to fold them over like this, and then see that little clip right here? That's going to snap into there, and then the wire will be in between there, and then that's how you're going to label each one of these. But there's so many of these that it's just going to take forever. So here on the magazine, I mean, look at how many there are. There's so many of these that you're going to have to clip on. It's insane. So it just kind of shows you how they all go on there. And on the next page here, you can see there's even more that go on the battery cables for the power battery cable box, and all of these loose cables as well. So yeah, so I think I'll just go and put those on, and then when I finally do attach them onto R2 here, I'll show you where the wires go on the circuit boards down inside there, and I'll show you what labels are on that screw and what part of R2 those wires came from. I think that'll just be a lot easier. Okay, so I got all the wires labeled, as we can see here, including these 2 loose ones. These were originally attached to the test board. These each get their own labels as well. And then you can see these are all attached. So there's quite a few of them on here. This one is the only one that doesn't get a label. It's the power cable. They said to just leave that without a label on it. And there we go. Alright, so on to the next step. Okay, so next we're going to have this battery box now. We're not putting the batteries in yet. That happens later. I think it's probably one of the last steps. So we're just going to put this cover on, slide it into place like that, and then there's 2.3 by 6 millimeter black screws that go in those. So let's line this up here, load up the screw, and then we'll just put this in. Okay, and we'll just get this set, and that keeps this secure while we're messing around with it. So I'll put the other one in on that side. Okay, so we're bringing back R2-D2's body, and we have them turned upside down, and then this is that panel that we put in earlier where the batteries go. We're going to unscrew these screws, and these ones stay in place. They don't come out, which is good, so you're not going to lose them. We just need to loosen these up so that we can take this back panel off like this, so we can slide it out and get inside here. So that's where we're going to start putting in the battery packs. Alright, so we have R2 turned right side up, and we're looking at the back side of him here where that flap is. So now we're going to put the battery box in, and we have to have it so that it's in this position so the cables are going out the left side of it. So we're going to pull this down, feed these wires through here. See if I can get this through on the left side like this. Alright, and then we're going to slide this up into the little battery It's like a little the holder that we put in there earlier. Let's see if I can get this in here. Okay, so it just kind of slides in place like this. This is to make sure it's all the way in there. So let's take a look from the side. Alright, so here's what it looks like from the side. So here's the battery box right here, and you can see it's resting on that angled holder, and then the wires are coming out between these right here. Alright, so that's perfect. Okay, so now that the battery box is in place, we can put this back on, this cover, so it just kind of slides in. You can kind of see how these white things are what holds the battery box in place. So we're just going to slide this back in, and then this is where that little blue screwdriver comes into play that we got on the last parts pack. You're going to use that to get down here and screw these back in, because you don't really have much room to work with down here. So let me see, am I doing this right way? Oops. It's a little fiddly, but I'm glad that they give us this thing. So I'm not sure I'm going the right way. Yeah, let's see. Well, I'll go ahead and get this screwed in. Oh, looks like I'm getting it. I'm getting confused as to which way is counterclockwise and clockwise because we're doing this backwards. Alright, well, that one's in. Let me tighten that one, and then we'll get all of that back in place. Okay, so now we're going to connect the first two wires. So this is pretty exciting. Alright, so we're going to take this cable right here that goes from the power where you plug it in to recharge it. And then we're gonna, this one doesn't have a label on it. We didn't put a label on this one. And then from the battery box, we have this one right here. And this one's not labeled either. These two get connected into each other. So we got to make sure we do this right. You got the holes there, you got the little prongs right here, and then you'll see that these clip together just like this. We want to make sure we do this right. Put it straight on, and then those click right in there. So if you ever need to unclick this, you can push down on this and it'll come undone. So that's really cool that they have that. So that's ready to go right there. Okay, now this is where things are going to get a little a little hard to film. Alright, so we're going to start plugging in all these wires into here. Now, not all of these are going to be used yet, because some of them are going to be used later. So the first one we're going to start out with is this one here called, well, it's CFS. That's the label that's on it. And that one is from the, let me see, which one is that? That's the center foot sensor. So the sensor that's on the bottom of the center foot, that goes, that's what this one is. Okay, so that one goes into this little corner one right here. So let's see if I can get that in there. Now once again, you got to watch these holes to match up with the pins on the inside. You don't want to accidentally bend those and get them in the wrong way. So it looks like the pins are favoring this side here, so let's see. We can get this on like this. Okay. And push that in just like that. Alright, so there's the first one. Okay, so the next one is CFIR. This is also for the center foot. It's a center foot infrared sensor. And now, thankfully, these are labeled. There's a a label on which one they go on. So this one is going to go into this third socket right here. So let me make sure I got the pins facing the right way and the holes like this. CFIR. All right, so let's get that in there. Oh boy, this is going to get really complicated once we start getting a lot of wires in here. That's going to be very, very complicated. Alright, so that's in all the way right there. Okay, so the next one is CS. Now this one comes from the battery box, and that's going to go in to this one right here. By the way, these are numbered, so they go in a certain sequence, and they do that to help prevent some of the wires from getting too clustered and twisted up. So let's see, let me put this one in here like this. This one's one of the smaller plugs. Let's see if I can get that in there. Okay, there we go. They kind of are inset, so it's a little hard sometimes to reach in there. But there we go. That's CS right there. Next, we're going to install the on-off By the way, if there's some background noise, I apologize. It's really hot in this room. I got these hot studio lights going on, and it's the middle of summer, and I'm just burning up in this room, so so I have the fan running full. Okay, so here's this red one right here, and this is very unmistakable the way this looks. You got one that goes horizontal and vertical. So that's going to go right into the on-off plug right here. It's a pretty interesting looking plug. So put this in just like that. Alright, so next is the power. So that's this one here that looks just like the red one we just did. And this one comes from the battery box as well. That one goes right in here, right next to the one we just did. So let's get that in here. Try to make sure we got all these wires where we can reach everything. See if I can get that in there. Got to get in there nice and straight. And let me see. There we go. All the way on. All right. Whew. Okay, so the next one now is for the left foot. So that is these cables here. It's LFIR, which is this one. Now this is going to go, I guess that's the left foot infrared sensor is my guess. It's going to go into this second connection right there. So let's make sure we got these pins. I got to see if I can lean in here. Okay, so I got to make sure I get this facing the right way. Got to say, this is not for the faint of heart. It's very, very... Okay, good. Got that. Once we get it in there, you can just kind of push it in place. And hopefully that it clicks. And you can kind of feel it click in just a little bit, because there's little clips on the side. Yeah, okay. Thank goodness. Alright, well, we got that one in, so that's good. Okay, so now we flipped R2 around because we're looking at this circuit board now. So this is the black wire that comes from the left foot, all the wires that we have tied off. This has got a different kind of plug. This one goes in here, and this one is labeled LS. You can see right there. So once again, keep an eye on where the pins and the holes are. The pins are on the upper part of the hole, so we're going to put it in like this. This, let me see, you're probably going to have a hard time seeing that. Alright, so let me get that plugged in. I'm sorry if my hand's in the way, but there's just no other way to do this. It's so hard to get in here. Alright, so we'll get that lined up. Okay, just want to make sure I'm not messing up the pins. Oh, there we go. So this is for the left shoulder sensor. Oh, nice. Okay, that just clicks right in there. Okay, so there we go. Wow. All right. Okay, so the last cable from the left leg is this one here. And this one is going to go in this third hole right here. All right, now this one has 6 prongs. So the way you got to make sure you get it the right way is, see this little white thing sticking out, this little line right here? It favors one side, you'll notice. Well, there's a hole, I don't know if you can see it right here, but you got to make sure you line that up. So we'll make sure we do that right. They mention that in the instructions as well. So you want to make sure you put it in the right way, because you don't want to be forcing things in. Alright, so let me see if I can reach in here. And we'll put it in like this. Okay, and line everything up. There we go. Now I'll see if I can push down on this. Alright. Looks like we got it. What? Oh, there we go. That clicked in. Oh, man. Okay, got that one in there. Okay, so now we can start plugging in all the wires for the right leg. So this one is RFIR. This is for the right foot infrared sensor. Now that one's going to go in this one right here. It's like 4 over from that right side. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. So this is wire number 9. Alright, so once again, make sure we got the holes lined up with those pins. I always kind of freak out. I want to make sure I don't get those wrong, because I'm always scared I'm going to bend the pins or something. Okay, so let me get that on. Oof, man, it's really hard to reach in here. With these being inset, it really makes it hard to get in there. Okay, looks like I got it. Ah, good, it just clicked. Whew. All right. Okay, so next is RFM, which is the right foot motor cable. That is this one right here. All right, and that's going to go on this very bottom connector right there. All right, so this is one of those ones. It's got the 6 prongs, and you got to make sure you get this thing on the side to go the right way. So it looks like it goes. I'm going to keep twisting these wires. It looks like it goes this way. It kind of favors the right side. So let me see. Boy, well, maybe it is better this way. Alright, so let's try to get this in here. I gotta tell you, it is not the easiest thing to get your hands down in here. Okay. And see if I can get that in. I'm always scared I'm pushing them in crooked or something. It's so hard to see. Okay, let me see. Oh boy, that is not an easy thing to get to in this corner. All right. Oh, well, all right. Well, let me get that in there and then I'll move on. Oh, actually I got it. Okay, good. Whew. Okay, so we flip things around and we're looking at this board again here. So this is RS for the right shoulder sensor. And this is the same kind of clip that we had before that we put in there. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Alright, so once again, the holes are favoring the top part here where those pins are. So let's plug this in. Alright, let me see. Get that in there. Push it in straight. Yeah, sorry, my hand's going to be in the way. Ah, good. Clicked right in place. Okay, so now we're back to the main board again, and we're going to start connecting these sensors that are on the back of R2's head. So we're going to start with this one, which is LHIR, right there. Make sure I can see that right. LHIR. Okay, right. Okay, so now this is going to go into, let's see, the third hole, or the third connector right here. So, starting to have some wires get in the way here. Alright, so now let's see. Once again, let's see, the pins are near the top. So this goes in like this. Okay, plug that in. Okay, now let's push it down. There we go. Alright, at least that one went in good. Alright, so the next one is the right sensor for the head. And this one is labeled RHIR. And this one's going to go right next to the one that we just put in, right in here. So let me see. Let's see, get those pins lined up. I never know which way to twist these. Okay, so make sure we get this in right here. And, okay, good. Now just push it in. There we go. Alright, good. Okay, so I had to clean up some of these wires in here. Those clips that are on top of this main circuit, you can kind of tuck some of these wires in here. You can kind of follow what the instructions tell you to do, but you're kind of going to have to do your own thing just to kind of make it all fit. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here, and I'll probably still have to tuck some of these other ones down. Alright, so the next one we're going to do is we have that loose wire that we had left over. This is MC right there, and so you're going to take the one with the wider end, which is this one, And that's going to go inside this socket right there. So let's see if I can reach in there. Of course, the more wires that we have, the more tricky this gets. Alright, let's see if I can push this in. Reach in here. Oh, good. Alright, so at least that went in good. Alright, so we've turned it around. We're back to the board that's on the front here. So that wire that we just plugged in, the other side of it goes into this last connection point right here. So let's try to get that in here. Okay, let me see. Pins are near the top. Okay. Try to get that in. Getting really tight in here. Okay, good. Now let's see if I can push it in. Ah, good. Alright, at least that wasn't too bad of a fight. Okay, so the next one we're going to use this other loose wire. This is that blue and yellowish one. So you can't even see it because it's so far in here, but if you look, there is a connection point right down. Let's see if I can move all this. See that right in there? That's where the wider end of that wire goes. So let me try to get it in there. Okay, by some miracle, I got it in there. They probably should have had us put that in sooner, because it's really hard to reach in there. Okay, so now this other half, let's see, where is it? This part now is going to go back over to this board, so let's get that connected. Okay, so the other side now goes on this very last connection point right here. So let's get that in there. Man, so many wires. Okay, good. Alright, now I'll probably have to tie these down somewhere so that everything will fit and it won't be a big mess. Okay, my goodness. Look at that. Just look at all of that wiring. That's insane. So the last step on this stage is to just kind of tidy up all these wires. So they kind of tell you to use these zip ties, you know, to kind of tie it to the frame a little bit right there. A little bit more in the corner over here. I used another one just to kind of hang on to this, this wire. Whatever you do, do not tie up these wires, these red ones. Let's see, where are they? You don't want to tie up this one that's got this clip. And you don't want to tie up these red ones because those are the ones that go to the battery box. And you need those to be loose so that when you take this out, the battery compartment will slide right out. They tell you to test it to make sure so that you can still reach this. And if you ever need to change the batteries, you can take it out and get to it. So yeah, you want to make sure you keep those ones loose. And then that way you can kind of tuck it in here, which I can't do one-handed. But anyway, make sure you do that right. So yeah, just kind of clean things up. The main point here is to keep the wires out of this general area right here, because when R2-D2's head turns, that lightsaber holder tends to hang down and it could possibly get caught on any of these wires. So I'll probably test to make sure that that it's not hanging down too low. You can always do more zip ties to put more in there if you need to, but I think that should be just fine. Here's the magazine for issue 98. Final fight. Big fight scene in the last of the prequel movies. So sensor mounts and brackets. So let's see. Now this is where we're going to replace that sensor mount that was on the back of R2's head. A few months ago when I was doing that, I didn't even bother to put the original one on because I knew that we were going to have to remove it anyway. Also, we're going to be putting the camera that goes on the front of R2's head right up here. That's really cool. And I think we're going to have to replace the lens. The original lens is too clear, so they decided to put a more smokier version in there so you don't see the camera so obviously. There's something else here that we're going to be changing out too. So we'll have to see how all of that goes. And I think we're going to finally be able to put the front panel on R2. And it looks like there's some more things we're going to be plugging in to that other circuit board. Wow, this is another big one. This is another big part of this build. More labels on the wires. Wow, there's a lot to do in this. And I think we're going to be finishing up the head too. Alright, well, let's get started on that. Here are the parts that we get for stage 98. So we have a couple of metal brackets right here. I don't think we're using these yet. I think we're going to use those on the next stage. A whole bunch of screws and a couple of another package of split washers here. I'm not sure what these little metal things are for. Now these pieces are to make a new stopper on the back of R2's head. So if you've been watching this series, I didn't install the original one because I knew we were going to have to take that off and put this new one on. So somewhere along the line it was decided that they needed to change that. I'm not really sure why. This one is wider than the original. I'll show you the difference once I get all this put together. So we'll be putting that on. I'm not sure what this is. And then we also have these little sticky things. They're like little soft felt things or something. I'm not really sure what these are for. Alright, so let's get started on that. Alright, so now we're going to work on the head for a little bit now. So we're going to install this camera on the front part here. So this is very cool. So we're going to feed this line through here, through this hole, like this. Alright, and then make sure that you're not bumping into anything back here. There we go. Now there is that double stick tape on the back here. You want to peel that off. Okay, and then you'll see that there is some holes right here, and you'll notice how it's open on one side. You want to just push that right in there, and it'll match up the holes perfectly. Let's see if I can do this. Alright, just like that. And then that will kind of hold it in place until you can get a screw ready to go. Well, I'm just going to hold it because it doesn't look like it's going to stick. Alright, so now we're going to take this 2x4mm screw to hold this in. So we'll go ahead and screw that in there. Okay. Alright, and then another one goes on that side, so let me get that done. Now we're going to put on these lens cover seals. That's these little spongy looking things. Not sure what the purpose of these are, but we're going to put one right on the top edge right there, so let's go and do that. Let's peel this off and then put it on there. So this goes flat on the top right here. To kind of try to get it along the edge, close to the edge as you can, like this. Make sure it's flat, and it's kind of curved, but the sponge isn't curved, so it's going to be kind of hard to get it to fit right. See, I hope that doesn't stick out too far. Not really sure what the purpose of these are, to be honest with you. Maybe it's to make that outer piece stay on better. I'm not really sure, but we'll just go and push that in like that. Okay. Alright, and then we'll take the other one, and that goes across the front right here. So, seems like it's kind of a tight fit. Alright. And then this kind of goes, it says kind of goes underneath the dome, but it's sticky, so I don't know how you're supposed to get it in there. See if I can kind of smush it in as we work our way along the edge here. I may have to use like a screwdriver or something to kind of push that in later. Okay. It's kind of weird. Okay. If I can push that down underneath the dome. Alright. I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. Alright, I don't know what the purpose of that is, but I guess we'll find out later, but there we go. Okay, so now it's time to replace the lens on this front piece that goes on R2's head. So you can see how clear that lens is versus this one. See how there's a difference? This one still has the cover on it. So We're going to change those out because you can still see the camera quite a bit in there with the old clear lens. So it's interesting they decided to change that out. So let me take all these screws out here. Okay, and then we got to take out the whole assembly here. It's weird because we did this very early on in the build, I think. And once again, I'm not sure why they don't send you the parts when you actually need them, because these things are laying around forever. Okay, so that comes out, and then we'll drop out the old lens. We'll put in this new one now. The new one's got this cover on here, so let's try to get this off. There we go. And try not to touch it. Here's the other piece of that. I can get a hold of that little flap right here. There we go. Alright. Oh yeah, this one, I had a hard time with that the last time too. Alright, so now that new one goes right in here. And make sure it's centered in there. And then we put this back on. This holds it in place. Let's see if I can get that in. Oops, I don't have that centered. Okay, there we go. Alright. And then we can put these back in. I'll just put one in. Then I'll skip ahead to the next step. So we'll go ahead and put this in here. Okay, and then I'll put the other three in and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so there it is. I'll be honest, I don't really see that much of a difference, to be honest with you. In fact, it almost looks like the old one was darker than the new one. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, I mean, there's hardly any difference between these two. Yeah, I don't know. Is the original one older? Darker? That's really weird. Alright, well, anyway, hopefully they didn't send me the wrong lens. Who knows? Alright, well, that part's done. Alright, so now we can finally put this on, which is great because we've had this for so long. So first of all, let me take this lens cover off. I've been keeping that on there because I didn't want to scratch up the lens. There we go. Alright, so that's now off. Now, I used to always have problems trying to get this in here. You'll notice these pieces here, they slot into these slots right here, and there's another one up there. And then when you put it in, you turn it to the left or push it to the left, and it's supposed to lock in place. Now, I'm always having a hard time getting this to fit in here. So I think what I'm going to do is I will try to push it in and get it right, and then I'll try to show you what it looks like once we slide it on. Okay, so I finally got it on. This piece up here was the part that was giving me such a hard time. So now we're just going to slide it to the left. You can see the gap right here. So you just slide it just like that. Oh, nice, nice. And there he is. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Finally got all that on there. You can just barely see the camera in there. And the studio lights are shining on it, so you're going to notice it more, but yeah, it's very nicely hidden in there. I kind of thought the lens was more in the center there. But that's cool. God, it's so cool to get that piece on there. That's fantastic. Alright, on to the next step. Alright, so we're breaking out the front half of the body that's got the blue arms and stuff. We're going to start working on some stuff in here now. So, let me see if we can get a good view of this. Now we're going to take the arm motor wire right here, and we're going to tuck this underneath the motor itself. So it kind of goes down under here, and then it goes under the arm mechanism right here. Okay, and then that's how we're going to feed it through, just like that. And then we're going to label these wires. So this one here is AM, so let me have that label, which I've already gotten started right here. So here's AM. Right, and we're just going to snap that on here like this. Get this on here like that. Okay, and then the rest of these get labeled, so I'm just going to go and put those on off camera. Okay, so all the wires have their labels on. So now the next step here is we got to take these screws out on the top here of this ultrasound sensor. Oh, these ones right here. Now I'm not sure why, it's another one of these things where you question why these kits are the way they are. Because we're adding a piece on here, and I'm not sure why we didn't do this before when we were putting all this part together. So we got to take these pieces out, or these screws here. Okay, and then we're going to put that ultrasound sensor cover on, which is this piece right here. So now that's going to go on here, making sure that the wires go through this opening up here. So we're going to fit that through like this. Let me see, I'm going to have to put this down here. Actually, maybe it'd be better if we go this way so we can see what's going on. Alright, and then get some decent light on here. Okay, so now we're going to put this on here like this. And then this fits over that. Just like that. See how that fits on there? So I wonder if this was like I wonder if it was a problem they ran into later on, and then they decided they had to add that piece in there. I'm not really sure what the story is behind that. I'm not sure if that was included in the original run of this kit, because this kit was out about 6 or 7 years ago. It's been out for a long time. Alright, so now we're going to replace those same flanged screws that we took out and put them right back in here. And the other one doesn't have a cover, so I'm not really sure why. Okay, so let me put the other screw in and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so there's 3 more labels that we have to put on. There's this one, which says speaker. For the speaker wire, this is on the back panel of R2. And then this whole head piece that we made earlier, this one has HM. And then on the head, there's a black wire that's sticking out, and you put mic, M-I-C, you put that label on the head. So those are all ready to go. Okay, so now we are ready to finally put this front panel on. So these wires from the front panel have to go under this frame, but over this circuit board. So let me see how we're going to do this. Let's try to feed some of these through. And then I got to try to make sure that I fasten this panel in. So I guess we can kind of put this close, but it's going to be hard to reach in here. So these 2 are through. This big black one here has got to go through. Let's see if I can get it in here. Okay, boy. And let me see, this one here is trying to constantly go under there. Okay, so there's 3. Now if I can just get this last little one through, hopefully, maybe, get it through there. Nice. Alright, now let's see if I can pull. This one popped out. Okay, there we go. Alright, now let's see if I can somehow get this on. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, look at that. Oh, that fits right on there. And there's some holes on the side here that line up with the holes in the frame where we're going to end up screwing that together. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. So we have all 4 wires coming through, so that's perfect. Okay, so now we got to attach the wires from the front panel into the circuit board. So this is the back one. We're going to start with the one marked AM for the arm motor. Now this one goes in this very front part right here. Let me see if I can get the holes aligned with the pins, and then try to get it in here. This is not the easiest thing to do because now we don't have the room that we used to since the front panel is now in place. Let's see if I can try to get this in here. Ah, man. Ooh, did I get it? I think I got it. Wow, that's a miracle. Okay, let me make sure it's pushed in all the way. Alright, perfect. Okay, so now rather than you having to watch me fumble around here, I'm just going to show you that the UTX cable, there's a UTX and a URX, which is that one right there. You got to be careful not to mix them up. So UTX, this one here, goes inside this plug right here, okay? And then URX goes on the one right next to it. So it's going to be a real tight fit, so I'm just going to go ahead and do those off camera and show you what they look like once they're in. Alright, well it wasn't easy, but I got them in there. So there it is, UTX and URX. They're ready to go. Okay, so the last one we got to put in is this one, which says switchboard, and it goes in this virtually impossible corner over here. So let me try to fight with that and get that in there. Alright, so I managed to get it in there. Wasn't easy, but it's in that corner. I had to get underneath all these wires right here. That was really hard. Alright, thank goodness. Alright, so now we're going to put together this bumper. So we're going to take these pieces. These are the rubber pieces right here. They go on here like this. Just on these little lugs, one on each side. Make sure they're on the right way so they kind of make this curve. Then we have this piece. Goes on here. All fits together, nice. Then we take a 2.3 by 6 millimeter black screw that goes in here. Put this on. Okay. Alrighty, and then one more on that side. Okay, so I got that all put together. Now, as I mentioned, I did not put the original stopper on here because I knew we were going to be taking that off, so that saves us the hassle. So there's the slot that this piece goes in, like this. And then you use the flanged silver screw that was used on that original piece. I'm not sure which screw it was, since I never put it in, but I'm assuming it's this one, because that's the only one that really seems to fit. So let me get this on here. So yeah, they decided to change this piece. I'm not sure why, but it was changed from the first release of this kit. And it probably had something to do with, maybe it was not wide enough, and the head was turning too much, but the main reason for this is to keep R2's head from completely spinning round and round, because then the wires are going to get all twisted. So it's to make it so that it goes about 180, and that's about it. So that's all good to go now. Okay, so now we're going to put the dome motor support on. So that's where these little things come in, these little plates. So that little hole there, it matches up with the pin right here. See that pin right there? So this goes on this back part like this. It's matching those holes up. And then this one, same thing, but on the other side here on the back. So this is the back of R2, right like that. Okay, so now we're going to take this big piece. This is the dome motor assembly right here. This is what we were working on earlier. So now this motor part faces towards the back of R2. So we're going to put this down inside here, and there's those pins are going to match up on the holes here like this. Wow, there we go. And this one, let's see, is this one in? I don't think that one's in yet. Okay, there's that one, and okay, good. Alright, so now there's 4 holes here, and that's going to take these screws here. Now these are, let's see, which ones are these? 2.5 by 8 millimeter screws, and it's got the 2.5 millimeter, as you can see, the 2.5 millimeter split washer. That's got to be on there. So now you got to make sure you don't lose that washer when you're putting this on. So let's see if we can try to hold on to this while we put this in the hole here. Alright, good. Screw that in place. Alright, so now we got to do that 3 more times for each of those holes, so let me get those put on. Okay, so those are all in place there. So now this cable coming out of here is HM, and HM has got to fit down on the main board here, right down. Let's see if I can get the wires out of the way. Right in there. See that little socket right in there? That's where that's got to go. So let me get it in there. And lo and behold, I managed to get it in there. That was a fight. Oh man, exhausting, but it's in there. Okay, so now we're going to do some more work on the dome. So we're going to take this microphone wire, which I've already put the label on for MIC. So it comes through underneath this red, blue, and black wire. And then we're going to put it on this clip right here. So we'll clip it to this. I can get my nail under there to put it in. Maybe. Alright, there we go. Alright, and then we're going to bring it over here. Now there's this blue, red, and black wire here for the, looks like it's for the logic lights. That's going to go, now this microphone wire is going to go under those. So let's lace it through like this. Alright, I'm not sure if it really matters if you do it the exact way that they're telling you, but we're going to go ahead and do it. And then here's the second clip. So we're going to put this under the second clip. Alright, let me see if I can get in here. Really gets difficult near the end of this build, I gotta tell you. There's a lot of stuff you're fighting with, a lot of wires, and just things that are just really fiddly in general. Okay, good, there we go. Alright, so we got the wire inside that clip right there. Just kind of pull the slack up a little bit, don't pull too hard. And then we're just going to leave this the way it is, because this is going to get plugged in. I think there's another board that goes in here, because these are all full here. So I'm assuming there's another board coming. So that's all we got to do with that. Alright, and now the last thing we got to do is we're going to take this piece that we built earlier. Now we're going to keep an eye on this part here that's got this thing that's sticking up. That's the only one that's got it. That one goes closest to the lightsaber tube here. So we're just going to match up these holes. You can kind of see there's 4 here and 4 here. Okay, so that's where those go. So they're going to go right in the center of those 4. So this just kind of fits on here like this. And all the holes match up. Alright, so now we're going to take a 2.3 by 4 millimeter screw, and that's what's going to hold this in place. And then there is 2, 4, 6, so there's 6, so 5 more to do, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's all done. Alright, so they're all in place now. Okay, very good. Got a lot done on that. So this cable here is very fragile. It's going to hang out. You got to be very careful with it. That's the camera. And then that black cable that we had for the microphone is just going to be dangling there until the next step. So I guess we'll just leave those the way they are for now. Okay, there we go. I can't believe it, but that completes stages 95, 96, 97, and 98. I am thoroughly exhausted. I have been working on this video now for 10.5 hours. I am just flat out exhausted. I got the fan blowing over here because these studio lights are so bright and hot. But I'm just glad that we finally got this done. So only 2 more stages left, 99 and 100, and we're going to be finally done with this thing. He weighs a ton. I bet he weighs at least 25 pounds, maybe more. In fact, I would love to put him on a scale to see how heavy he is. So we still got to get that back section done. But there's not much left, only 2 more stages. And then I'm going to do a full review video, and I'll show him fully working, all the things that he can do. And then I'll just kind of talk about the good and the bad about this entire kit and the building experience about it. So anyway, thank you for hanging in there. I'm sure this video is going to end up being really long by the time I get done editing it, but I apologize for the length. There was just a ton of stuff to show on this, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. And thank you very much for watching, and until the next video, I will see you then. So thanks again, and have a good one.